Welcome back. I'm Jester of the Retro Stars. Oh, okay, here we go. I am in Hyrule Field at early dawn because there's a cool little tidbit where if you enter Lon-Lon Ranch or Kakariko Village right after the rooster call, you can actually enter the place before the music starts, and all you hear is the sound of the wind and the morning birds chirping. You've got the long morning shadows at Link's feet, and when you go into the actual corral there, you just hear Malon singing the theme of Lon-Lon Ranch. And I think that's really nice, so I like to come to Lon-Lon Ranch at dawn before the music has started. Anyway, hello, I'm Jester of the Retro Stars. I'm playing through Ocarina of Time and analyzing it as we go. Okay, today we're getting to the dramatic, tragic midpoint moment of the game, where Link attempts to open the door to the Sacred Realm, to get the Master Sword, to fight evil, to keep Ganondorf from taking over the kingdom, and he ends up failing in the process. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to be introduced to Ganondorf for the first time, and we'll talk about his particular philosophy. And we're going to talk about time as a tragic reality, as well as Link's ultimate relationship to time as the hero of time. So that's the game plan for today. We're going to tackle kind of a lot. Right now, we are playing more silly games with chickens. Before I do that, you can cheese this game, which I am going to shamelessly do by shoving all the chickens in here. So basically, we're at Lon-Lon Ranch right now because I would like to get another empty bottle, and I'm going to go ahead and learn Epona's song from Malon. In order to get the empty bottle, you've got to play this chicken minigame, where Talon here throws out 3 special chickens that you have to pick up as distinguished from the regular chickens, who look exactly the same. So if you shove them all in the corner here, he just throws out the chickens, and you can grab them very easily. Anyway, let's talk some about Lon-Lon Ranch as well. I talked before about how Kakariko represents the sort of natural happiness that one can experience in Hylian culture. There we go. Easy does it. And I mentioned that on some level Link is locked out of that natural happiness. He is potentially drawn toward that happiness. Would you like to marry Malon? Yeah, sure, why not? He's potentially drawn to that happiness as a Hylian, right? He's entering the world where he should belong, but he is still an outsider. So he's been an outsider to the Kokiri, because he's not a Kokiri, but he's also an outsider to the Hylians, because he can't, settle for this natural happiness when there is evil and turmoil in the world. So he has this higher supernatural purpose to confront evil, to bring healing to a wounded world. All of that stuff. But we get to see the tragic beauty of natural happiness here in places like Lon-Lon Ranch, right? And it's tragic because Link can't participate in it. He's sort of watching from the outside. I love this little room up here. Like I mentioned before about going into different houses in Kakariko Village to just feel the cozy vibes. And this is another place that I just find very cozy. For some reason, I love that little, blue glass vase right there. I love the shuttered windows. I love the carpet. It feels like, you're sitting up in this cozy attic room with you actually don't see any rafters here. It feels like there should be rafters, right? It feels like you're up in this little attic. It's cozy, it's nice, and it's a sort of calm and peaceful, nostalgic place. It reminds me of, like, going on trips to Ireland, a trip to Ireland with my family, where we were staying in farmhouses and stuff, and we had a bedroom up in the attic, and we would look out the windows and watch the cows in just the most emerald green pastures. And there is something really charming and nostalgic about it, especially when you're a kid. So here we are. You can hear Malon singing. Otherwise, it's completely silent. Okay, let's learn Epona's song, because Epona's going to be important once Link is an adult. You have to just keep talking to her. Okay. Until she stops saying the same thing over and over again. There we go. Okay, we know that Link is locked out of this happiness by the fact that he's going on this quest. He has to. But we can see that idea even lampshaded, right? When Talon's like, hey, would you like to marry Malon? Like, obviously that's not a thing that's going to happen. But even the mere suggestion evokes this idea of Link, you know, falling in love with this nice farm girl and settling down, taking over the you know, farm duties or whatever, and just living a nice, calm, peaceful life in touch with the land. He can't do that, right? That's not something that is possible for him. So the natural happiness that, okay, we learned Epona's song. The natural happiness that's represented in Lon-Lon Ranch, I think fits into Kierkegaard's idea of the ethical, right? It's living according to social duty, being a, you know, a good whatever, husband, father, worker, whatever. It's living according to particular ideals of a community, and living according to higher ideals than just the individual self. The ethical is limited and it's going to fall short. And in that sense, Kierkegaard, you know, we've talked about how Kierkegaard talks about the aesthetic, which is kind of the lowest sphere of existence, then the ethical, which is next up. Then there's the religious, which is actually the higher, like the highest, I guess, sphere of existence an individual can attain to, because that's the sphere where it's just the soul before an infinite God, right? It's not contingent upon social duties. So Kierkegaard is very against the idea of like cultural Christianity, where he's like, no, like this is, your faith is not about just like going to church and then going about your day and living your life as though, you know, everything is just normal, right? This is just the thing that we do. No, it's actually about committing to a transcendent source of meaning beyond even what the community is expecting of you. And that, I think, is what Link is doing. So we're seeing that his journey toward healing the world exists more in the religious sphere than it does in the ethical. Okay, Lon-Lon Ranch, cool stuff. We got our objects that we need. Let's go have this profound confrontation. Right. The sky is all dark. It's moody, it's dramatic. The drawbridge is going to lower. And we should recognize what's going on here, because these are, we've seen snapshots of this scene already in Link's dreams and visions. Now we know that he was actually seeing the future when he is first to encounter Ganondorf and confront evil. So here Zelda is running off with Impa, and she's throwing the Ocarina of Time, which we will need here in just a second. And here it is. This is the shot from Link's dream. There's Ganondorf confronting Link, and we are first glimpsed, well, I guess second glimpsed because we already have the visions. We are glimpsing him for the first time in the light of day, though it is quite dark out, admittedly. All right, let's talk about Ganondorf's philosophy. I'm going to make the argument that Ganondorf is essentially a Nietzschean. In that his entire way of seeing the world is all about power and the will to power and harnessing power, right? He represents the Triforce of power. He acts as though the only force in the universe is power. Now this is interesting because when we see him here, he's just kind of bullying Link, right? Like he's like, oh, who's this kid? He doesn't matter. But we can see how he's all about power because when he actually does enter the Sacred Realm, he tries to take the entire Triforce, the Triforce that that is about power but also wisdom and courage. he can't actually keep the Triforce. The Triforce ends up being split into 3 parts. He only gets the Triforce of Courage. The Triforce of Power. This matters because, like we talked about how the creation narrative presents the universe as constituted by these 3 powers. But Ganondorf only sees the one power. In that sense, he is only able to harness that one power. He thinks power is the only thing that exists, and that's all he's able to participate in. So he actually, on some level, experiences a world that is less than what actually exists, right? To him, everything is just will to power, even though that's not the case. There's more to the universe than power. He just can't see it. So it makes sense that the Triforce ends up getting split, and he actually gets as much of that power as he is able to perceive. And he remakes the world in his own image. So once he takes over, the world gets devastated by his power. He destroys all sense of law and order, wisdom, and life and love, courage. All that's left is the devastation of power. He remakes the world in his own image. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to talk about with Ganondorf. Right, okay, so we are hearing from Zelda. Gonna learn the Song of Time. I think if I remember more about Ganondorf to say, we've got another errand to run before we unseal the Master Sword. Okay, she's teaching us the Song of Time. So let's talk about time, right? Link is getting the Ocarina of Time. He's learning the Song of Time. He's going to have the capacity to control time and experience time in a particular way. So, what does time mean in the Zelda universe, specifically in Ocarina of Time? Narratively, after Link goes to sleep for 7 years and he wakes up to find the world devastated, we're presenting time as a profound tragedy, right? Time passes and terrible things happen. And this is sort of an allegory, a metaphor, whatever, for human being, like all of our experience of time, right? Like time is a tragedy because time is going to entail pain and suffering and loss. No matter what we do, right? Time brings with it decay. It brings with it a tendency toward destruction. It brings with it the death of people we care about. And the market is really interesting right now because we start to see, like, people have this premonition that something terrible is about to happen. I have a feeling something terrible is going to happen. Maybe I should leave town. You can see, like, if you talk to all the NPCs, they all have something kind of ominous to say. In the back here, let's see, what do you say? Excuse me? Hey, sorry, I'll tell you something helpful. Oh, that's just telling me about the fairy fountain that we need to go to before we do the ritual of the opening of the door. Here is a soldier who's telling us basically about Ganondorf racing through here. So he knows something's wrong. He might be dying. Wait, he is dying, I think. Yeah, he's trying to stop Ganondorf. Princess was waiting for a boy from the forest. That's you. Yeah, okay, so he's dying. So, on the surface, everything is fine, but, like, we have this just ominous sense that something's not quite right. Everyone is just living life as usual. And yet, tragedy is about to strike. There's a foreordained feeling to the fact that everything is about to go wrong that I think, I don't know, there seems to be some coinciding with the foreordained nature of Link's quest, right? Like, he's had these visions of Ganondorf. We finally see the confrontation with Ganondorf. We can see how his purpose is to confront evil and heal a wounded world. We can also see the inevitability of the woundedness of the world, right? Like, things are going to go wrong. People are going to experience pain and suffering. There's something inescapable with that. And so the question is, how do you deal with that? Right? So we're presenting time as an inescapable tragedy. So several questions. I guess one question is, how do you deal with the inescapable suffering that time brings about? I think there are two ways of dealing with that. Well, maybe more than two. I'm going to talk about two that have to deal with a longing for eternity. One solution is to just not long for eternity and become a Nietzschean, right? Like, the thing about Ganondorf is he's all about just like, okay, the universe is constituted according to power and violence, so I will participate in that power and violence to get as much out of the universe as I can in my very contingent, short, meaningless existence. I will use my power to exert my will on the universe and forge meaning. That's kind of the Nietzschean understanding of the poet. Two other options. Both have to deal with, got another spell. Both have to deal with a longing for eternity. So one way of escaping the pain and suffering of time, or dealing with the pain and suffering of time, is to escape from time into a sort of formless eternity, right? Like, it's a sort of, I guess, amorphous longing for a spiritual existence beyond and outside of time. Like, this is this is nirvana. Okay, I'm gonna just get caught by the guards. Where you're not bound up in the pain and suffering that is caused by the passage of time. You're actually existing in a formless, ocean of endless bliss. So that's one way of escaping the suffering that time entails. Another way, another type of eternity, is an eternity. Oh, there's a bug there. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't really need any more rupees right now. Another type of eternity has to do with, I guess, is, how to explain? Another type of eternity doesn't escape time, but actually brings like all moments of time into itself and redeems them in a certain eternal moment that isn't outside of time, but is the summation of all moments in time. Interestingly, that's more the Christian understanding. So as we are going into this Gothic cathedral, I can't help but think of the idea of the sacraments, right? Like, on the Catholic understanding, the Eucharist is a participation in Christ's, death and resurrection that happened in the past. It is also bringing together the entire church community in the present, and it's prefiguring this future eternal, reality in which the cosmos is fully united and with the love of God, right? So it's like this moment that brings together past, present, and future, and redeems all of it, including the pain and suffering that takes place, right? Like, Christ's death and resurrection is all about pain and suffering and trying to make sense of it. Interestingly, I kind of feel like that vision of eternity is more similar to what's going on with Ocarina of Time. I'm going to save here real quick, just because I think the next episode needs to start while we were in the middle of the next cutscene, if I time it correctly. We shall see. Okay, yeah, here we go. So we are playing the Song of Time. We are opening the door of time, and Link is going to be able to enter the sacred realm and pull the Master Sword from its pedestal. Anyway, this attitude toward time is more similar to, like, the Catholic sacraments than a more, like, I guess, Buddhist understanding of nirvana. Because the Sacred Realm exists outside of time. On some level, the Master Sword and the Ocarina of Time and all of these these items that Link collects are this nexus point between moments in time, right? They exist outside of time and they allow access to different moments in time. But Link doesn't escape time, right? He spends 7 years in the Sacred Realm, in that sense is in a place outside of time, but then he has to re-enter time to try and bring healing, to try and bring about the redemption into a suffering world, right? So he's not escaping time. He is stepping outside of time so that he can re-enter time in a new way. Anyway, I don't know, that might have been a little obtuse. It's very, T.S. Eliot's The Four Quartets, right? Like, it's a very little-getting approach to time. You know, like a 20th century modernist way of thinking about how time relates to eternity. That might not be a question that people are actually interested in anymore, but I think it's interesting. Okay, let's pull the Master Sword. When do I need to start the next episode? Hold on. I think I'm gonna pause here in a second, but first I'll say one more quick thing about the ritual that Link has to do to actually open the door of time, right? He brings the 3 spiritual stones, puts them on the pedestal, and as he's bringing the 3 spiritual stones, again, we're bringing together the 3 different layers of interpretation of this entire game. The ones having to do with the self, with society, and with spirituality. Because the stones are representing a balance between mind, body, and spirit. They represent a balance between the 3 different races, the Kokiri, the Gorons, and the Zoras, and they represent the balance between the cosmos as described in the Zelda universe, right? Materiality, physicality, life and love, and wisdom, and intelligibility. So in that sense, Link, in enacting this ritual, is starting to grow in his understanding of the whole, the totality of the cosmos, and that's going to help him live better in the world, because he's actually going to see the world in its fullness, whereas Ganondorf only sees a small part of the world and only lives according to a small part of the world. Okay, we are in the Sacred Realm. We've not yet seen what the Chamber of Sages is going to look like. I'm going to pause here. We talked about a bunch of stuff. I don't know. Link's quest, the tragedy of time, the nature of how time relates to eternity according to the Hero of Time's quest, all sorts of stuff. We're gonna keep talking next time. And until then, goodbye.